I quit my corporate job in the middle of the 2020 pandemic to start investing in real estate full-time. What's up? I'm Soli from Lattes Leases, and this is my first official YouTube video. I'm launching this YouTube channel to give you an in-depth view of how I used real estate investing to quit my 9-to-5 and reach financial freedom, and ultimately give you the tools so that you can do the same. So this video is going to be a little bit different. Usually I'm going to give you all the actionable tips, teach you how to choose a market, build a team, analyze deals, but I wanted to really start this channel by introducing you to my story so that you can get a little bit more of a sense of who I am, where I came from, and how I got into real estate. Let us dive in. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how I got into real estate in general. We have to go way back to when I was about 14 years old. I started working at a coffee shop, and I know that is so young. My mom used to drive me to work, actually. But while I was working there, I met a residential realtor and did some work on the side for him. And I worked for him for about 3 months, and I absolutely hated residential real estate. It just wasn't for me. But I ended up going to college right after that time, and I was a finance major. I was going to school in the Bay Area. I didn't have many friends at that college, and what did I do? I joined the Real Estate Association to kind of get plugged into what was happening on campus. I started going to meetings, kind of learning more about the real estate world, and when I was a sophomore, I really needed a job because I was running out of money, and so one of my friends from the Real Estate Association actually got me a job in commercial real estate. I did not know what commercial real estate was. I had no experience, no feeling in commercial real estate, but essentially what it was leasing office space, and I found out I was pretty good at it, and I really liked it. And so I ended up almost working like full time through college. It was crazy. I would go to the office at 6, go to class, and then kind of go to the office again till nighttime and repeat that all over again. 2020, I was a senior in college, and when the pandemic hit, it just hit the office leasing world so hard, and all of a sudden overnight, just business died. Had accepted a job to go full-time into commercial real estate. It was a commission-based job, and so with the pandemic happening, honestly a real possibility that I would make no money for a long time. So that combined with like school didn't know how to do virtual classes, and I all of a sudden had a lot of time to reprioritize what was important to me, and also like how I was gonna make money if something like the pandemic happened again. So I was, consistently listening to something called Bigger Pockets. If you don't know what Bigger Pockets is, I will link it for you. It's an incredible education resource for real estate investing. I was learning all about just these regular people who started investing in real estate, building passive income and reaching financial freedom. And I thought, hey, if these, regular people can do it, why can't I do it too? So I decided to go all in on investing in real estate. This was about maybe March or April of 2020. In college, I lived in the Bay Area, and it was literally the most expensive city in the entire country. So the average homes were well above $1 million. When I was a senior, I had saved up about $50,000, which is quite a lot of money for a college kid, but I was working almost full time. It still was not enough to buy a property in the Bay Area, and I definitely did not have the finances to qualify for a property like that. I had a few friends that invested out of state. They bought a couple properties. I seriously thought they were crazy to buy these properties. Never touch them, never go see if they were actually real. But when the pandemic hit, and I knew I couldn't invest locally, that's when I kind of discovered like, hey, maybe this was actually possible for me. So what I did was I read David Green's Long Distance Real Estate Investing book and started going down the rabbit hole of long distance real estate investing, and decided that that was going to be the path for me. So while I was working in brokerage, I actually flew to Cincinnati for one of the deals I was working on, and I knew one local investor who I decided to call. He was in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was so nice. He walked me through the market and introduced me to a realtor who then I connected with and started to seriously look at real estate. Seriously guys, this was like 4 weeks later. We moved so fast I didn't even have time to think about how crazy this was. So I decided to invest in Cincinnati for a couple of reasons. One, I knew one investor, and he was very helpful for kind of walking me through the market, and he was able to look at that first property for me as well. 2, the average home prices were quite low, so compared to $1 million, they were about $100,000 or so. And 3, there was a good amount of cash flow in the area. So while the property values were pretty low, the rent was fairly high. It was $1,000 to $1,500. And I was really looking for that cash flow to supplement my commission-based job. So those three things kind of came together and I decided that Cincinnati was for me. Let's fast forward to my first property about 12 weeks after deciding to invest in real estate. 3 months, I closed on my first property, sight unseen, from 2,500 miles away. So my next YouTube video is going to be exactly digging into that first property, how I found the deal, how I funded the deal, how I renovated the deal, refinanced, all that good stuff. I'll break down all the numbers, so make sure you take a look at that next week. Basically, I flew up to Cincinnati and I renovated it. I DIY renovated it. I have no handy skills. I'm really bad at home renovation stuff, but I was feeling ambitious and I flew out there and did some painting and that sort of thing. And if you're curious, you can kind of see a highlight on my story of where I struggled through a renovation. It was wild, but it was a really good learning experience about, you know, what it takes to invest in real estate. So the strategy I used on my first property is called the BRRRR strategy. So that stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And it's a strategy that you can use to invest your money, increase the value by renovating it, and then refinancing it to pull out your initial investment. So at the end of the day, I refinanced that property and left about $7,000 in the deal and got back my original investment. If you want to hear more exactly about how the BRRRR strategy works, make sure to leave a comment and I will make a video outlining exactly how that process works, because it is super cool and it is literally the reason I've been able to scale my portfolio. So I know I mentioned I only had $50,000 to invest, and you're probably wondering, how did I get from 0 to over 30 units in 2.5 years with only $50,000? For my second property, I discovered an amazing thing called private capital. So throughout my first property, I was, vlogging on Instagram, sharing the process, and one of my family members was actually following me and watching me and reached out and said, hey, I would really like to invest in your second deal. At the time, I did not know that was a thing, but I ended up giving a fixed return to that person and buying a triplex for that second property. And that to me was what really opened up my world. My biggest problem at the time was figuring out how to fund my second deal and my third deal, since I only had a finite amount of money. Raising private capital was the thing that allowed me to scale much faster. So I ended up buying, 20 plus units in my very first year through the combination of the strategies of borrowing and raising private capital. So I would essentially buy a distressed property with other people's money. I would renovate it with other people's money, so with none of my own money. I would rent it and then refinance it, pay back the lenders, and repeat that process over and over and over again. And that is how I have done pretty much all of my deals, which has allowed me to scale much faster than if I were to rely on using my own capital. So about 15 months after I started investing, I was still working in the commercial real estate world, and I had around 25 units. My expenses were very low, so I was driving like a 2005, still am, paid off car. I had a pretty cheap rent. I realized that my income from my rental properties had completely covered my pretty low expenses, and I had a big opportunity to continue to build my real estate portfolio. I had built all the skills I needed through raising money and mastering the BRRRR process to keep building my portfolio, and at the time, the opportunity cost was so big to not put all my time and focus into investing in real estate. So that is exactly what I did. 15 months after I started investing, I made the jump, left my 9-to-5 in commercial real estate, and became a full-time real estate investor. So in the last year and a half, I have scaled to about 31 units and have spent, probably about 6 out of 12 months this year traveling, which has been so awesome. That real estate can give you that kind of financial freedom, time freedom, and location freedom. So we don't have time to go into every single strategy and every single deal. I just wanted to give you a brief rundown of a little bit about my story. This is exactly why I created this YouTube channel. Basically share all the information that I had gathered over the years and give it to you. Because when I started, I did not have a mentor. I did not have, I had books and podcasts, but I didn't have someone to hold my hand through the process. And so what I wanted to do is essentially share everything that I've learned with you guys to help you reach financial freedom through real estate faster. So that's all for this video. Next week, I will be sharing all about my very first property and the numbers, how I found it, how I renovated, all that good stuff. So make sure you stick around and you press the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos just like this.